This is kind of a story that came out of nowhere, which is sometimes, interesting when we look at a story and go, wait, does this make any sense? I've never heard anything like this before. Our producer, Alex, found the story. So we often, from time to time, we started the show today by talking about the question that started the show about food that you wouldn't give up. Some Americans saying they wouldn't give up fast food.
Yeah, they'd rather
give up 4 years of their life.
Exactly.
If they had to not be able to eat fast food. And then when I saw the title and it talks about cheat meals. Now, I guess if you try to eat healthy all week, right, and you have that day, whatever it's set aside, maybe it's a weekend for your cheat meal, figuring that's okay. Turns out, because there's studies on everything, a recent study from the University of Toronto found young adults are more prone to developing an eating disorder if they engaged in cheat meals, which I thought were relatively hassle-free. Like, why would that even be an issue? So we thought, well, let's try to find out more. On the line, Kyle GANSON, lead author of the study. He's also an assistant professor at the University of Toronto. Mr. GANSON, thanks for the time this afternoon. I thought cheat meals was pretty innocuous, like no big deal. You can have a cheat meal every now and then. Why is this apparently becoming a problem, at least for young adults?
Yeah, thanks so much for including me and having me on today. Well, I think colloquially, cheat meals are, they're like, we see them on social media. There's like millions of posts about people engaging in cheat meals. And traditionally, they're just seen as, deviating from like normal restrictive diet. Oftentimes the cheat meals are like calorically dense, or they're foods that like people don't really eat, like, I don't know, like a couple hamburgers or a pint of ice cream or something along those lines. And so, because it has it's wrapped up in some, kind of thinking around food, around what's allowed, what's not allowed, it can create some problems for some people, and especially if it's attached to like their body image or a certain goal they have about their body. And in the sort of fitness community, cheat meals can often be used as a way to sort of manipulate the body, to use some of the like dietary fats within the cheat meal to like enhance their muscle development and sort of enhance their musculature. So it's it's a complex kind of behavior, despite the very common nature of it. And because it's sort of wrapped around eating a large amount of food, oftentimes what can happen for people is, they might feel guilty after they do it. So therefore they might, engage in some compensatory behaviors like restricting their food or, vomiting or exercising more. And that's what we found in the study is that, those, adolescents and young adults who engaged in cheat meals were more likely to also engage in binge eating or compensatory behaviors like, fasting, compulsive exercise, purging, etc.
It's making me think of a conversation that we've had with a nutritionist who basically said you have to have a healthy relationship with food, and that anything in moderation is okay because you don't want to have any kind of behavior that is going to lead to binge eating or just an unhealthy relationship with food. So is that what this is about making sure you have a healthy relationship with what you're eating?
Yeah, certainly. I think if you say something is off limits, and except for Friday nights, you're going to have a large amount of a certain type of food, which we found in the study is that most of the cheat meals were somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 calories, which is a fair amount of food in one sitting. So if you sort of tell yourself, okay, I'm not going to eat this specific food, or I'm not going to eat this amount of food for the entire week, and then you allow yourself to experience that food in one short period of time, it sort of then, again, creates this sort of dynamic and thinking around food that is certain things are bad or certain amounts of food are bad versus, just allowing all foods to be kind of what they are, which is nutrition, enjoyment, social aspects of food, etc.
And Kyle, as you pointed out before, in this study, it was found to be especially true for young men, women, transgender, and gender non-conforming people. Why do you think that's particularly the case?
Well, I think it's pretty just common in the again, young people who are engaging in social media, young people who are engaging in behaviors that their peers might be engaging in, and seeing people like The Rock is someone I often talk about when I talk about some of these behaviors, because he often posts images and he has tons of followers on Instagram and through social media, and he shows his images of his cheat meals, which are often very large and sort of promotes this behavior, just like other people on social media promote the behavior. So I think it's not surprising that, people are engaging in them, just because it is, it's sort of pervasively in our culture. And again, as I said, we can easily attach like the idea of a cheat meal onto maybe eating a large amount of foods to make ourselves feel better. So, I really want to have that pizza, or I really want to have the hamburger, I really want to eat this pint of ice cream. Well, it's just my cheat. I'm just going to cheat today. I'm just going to have it. It's okay. It's sort of like part of this cheating that I'm going to do. But I'm going to go right back to eating, restrictively the next day, or tomorrow I'll go on an extra long run, or I might, purge or vomit at another point during the week to sort of compensate for the behavior. So it's definitely intertwined with, not such good thinking styles, despite the pervasiveness of what we found in the study, which was over half of the participants were engaging in it.
It's interesting as I hear you sort of relay the rationale here. I thought to myself, I thought this was going to be about mindless eating, right? The fact that if you sit down, you're polishing off a pint of ice cream, you're really not thinking about what you're doing. And obviously, if you do that too often, that's not going to be good for you. But the suggestion you seem to be making is that, with social media sort of pushing these ideas, obviously kids are probably more prone to following along. So it kind of makes me wonder, how do you break that cycle? I mean, what's it going to take to break that cycle?
I think, kind of conversations like this, making it more known that it's okay for, young people and anybody really to be able to eat the types of foods that they want, however much they want, and that is okay, and not creating a narrative around food, as we said previously, that like some things are okay, some things are not okay. So making sure that people, especially young people, start to develop healthy relationships with food, because obviously that's going to lead to hopefully longer-term better and more improved relationships with food as they age and go through their adult life. I think just having conversations, bringing awareness to it, generating some conversation on social media around, these behaviors, I think would be very, very helpful.
And if someone thinks that maybe they're not having a healthy relationship with food, or they're engaging in some unhealthy behavior, like what would you say are the things to watch out for? What are the signs that somebody might have an eating disorder, or could be developing an eating disorder, Kyle?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, especially, as we are quote unquote, exiting the pandemic, which has been well documented to have increased eating disorders and disordered eating among young people, because of the lockdowns and just challenges with social media and being online. So it's good to be aware of what we should be looking out for. Certainly, just changes in engagement with food. So it could be eating less, it could be eating more, it could be eating secretively, it could be, being very restrictive of the types of foods, it could be counting calories, things of that nature. It could also be, increasing exercise. That's often a very early sign. Not that everybody who increases exercise is going to have an eating disorder, but that compulsive exercise, that need to exercise, the drive to exercise can often be a little bit of a warning sign. Certainly among young men, use of sort of performance-enhancing substances can be a pretty good indicator of potential eating disorder behaviors. So using or abusing whey protein or creatine, or of course even steroids can be a big indicator. And then generally just negative comments or conversation around body, feeling like they don't look good, making negative comments about their body and their body fat, striving to fit a specific ideal for their gender. So particularly thin and toned for women, particularly muscular and lean for men. And then, of course, people who are trans they fall within the categories of their identifying gender. So it can be pretty complex. And again, not that everybody who maybe experiences some body dissatisfaction has an eating disorder or is engaging in eating disorder behaviors, but I think just being curious, for parents and teachers and people who care about young people, always asking questions, just kind of being curious about the behaviors they're engaged in, what they're thinking about their body and food. It can be very helpful.
Excellent advice. Hey, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. Very much appreciated, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So
Kyle GANSON over at the University of Toronto. It's funny. It's the same things you maybe have heard of 10, 15 years ago. Nothing really seems to have changed other than the propagation of this kind of stuff on social media.
Again, it makes me think of Robin Glantz, this nutritionist that we've spoken to before, who always says you have to have a healthy relationship with food.
Yeah.
Don't deny yourself the hamburger. Don't deny yourself the potato chips. Just don't eat 4 hamburgers. Yeah. Don't eat a bag of potato chips every day. But allow yourself these indulgences so that you have a good relationship with food.
And it's that same thing, if it dates back to the time talk about young people necessarily being the ones most affected by this, right? You develop that you can't have it, therefore you want it. There's your relationship, right?
So true.
When people say, no, not good for you, and then you go ahead and do this cheating on your own, find out how bad that is for you too. So